What's up, guys? Jeff Gamble. Wanted to do a quick video. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. For those of you who are joining us live, I have the live set up as well as recording this, so that way those of us on our deaf team will have the ability to watch this replay on YouTube and have the ability to plug in. But I get asked the question a lot, and I just want to be able to answer it. I did some studying on this, so that way I can put together the numbers, that it's not just my opinion, to say the least. But I get asked the question a lot, what should we focus on? Should we focus on sales, or should we focus on building a team, recruiting? And I get told a lot that recruiting is hard or recruiting is difficult. And what I can tell you is that is absolutely not true. The majority of the time when people say that, there's one of three things going on. Fear. Fear is usually a big one. Second is lack of responsibility. They just don't want to be responsible for anybody but themselves, and I see that a lot. Fear usually comes from doing something and it not working out, or the fear of trying to do something and it not working out. You know, you're picturing your head. And then the third thing, which is the biggest thing, is people just never get trained. And I find that to be more true than anything, is people never get trained in the industry of recruiting. But obviously recruiting is kind of everything. And I'll just get that out there right up front. Recruiting is everything. When you look at the biggest companies in the world, whether that be, you know, the real estate companies, if you look at RE/MAX, if you look at Keller Williams, if you look at this new company EXP that's coming on so strong, what is 100% of their focus? 100% of their focus is what? Recruiting. You know, they don't, you know, RE/MAX doesn't say the only thing we do here is sell. No, it says that the thing we're doing here is expanding our company, you know, and Keller Williams was the same way when it took off. You know, yes, they sell real estate. That is the primary focus. That is their business. But they're all about recruiting. They're all about growth. And that happens, of course, in every industry. Without recruiting, the industry dies. You know, look at the NBA. Every year there's a draft. Look at the NFL. Every year there's a draft. Look at, you know, Major League Baseball. Every year there's a draft. There's new people. They're always bringing on new talent and training new talent. So what is best for the new person getting into the industry? Can you make some money in sales? Yes. There's only two things I say we do inside of network marketing. Number one is we sell product, and number two is we recruit people who sell product. That's all we do. You know, but there's a philosophy of which do you do first. You know, what I find is people in the beginning will build their teams and get their teams really big, and then they'll try to switch gears and focus on, well, we just need to sell more product now. Well, of course, because they've already built the network. But if you look at what they did first, they always built the network first, and the network is what's paying them all the money. So I did some studying and some research, and I want you to know from where I come from. So I've looked at a lot of this, and what I mean I've looked at a lot of this, I've studied a lot of this. I've studied, you know, some of the best in the industry, both inside and outside the world of network marketing and direct sales. And, you know, the question comes up, you know, sales or recruiting, product or people? And what I always tell people is it takes people to move product. So it makes more sense to me that people come. But here's what I've found works. Not only works, but duplicates. Number one, the best people in the industry that I've found focus on one thing, and that's building a team. It's not like they hide it. The majority of their trainings and talks are all about building a team and leadership. I've seen some of these guys, you know, 10 times live and hundreds of times on recordings. And some of them, I don't even remember them talking about sales. I know that they said it in there, but like there's no memory of them talking about that. They just said, look, you want to be a product of the product. You want to be able to buy what you're recruiting. But team building is what it's all about. Two, the best team builders are always the best leaders. So again, not only do they talk about building a team, they talk about leadership. So that's obviously a very important element inside of building a team. And number three, all of them had a system. I mean, all of them. And I'm going to pull out some stuff here and read it to you. I know that's, you know, not really the most popular thing to do on a video is read to you. But I want you guys to have the exact words that these guys used. Number four, they were usually always amazing trainers. They were dream builders. So not only did they dream big, but they built big teams because of the vision that they had. And I'm going to give you some facts behind why this makes sense. And it doesn't come from me. It comes from people who have earned, in some cases, over $1 billion. So when people come to me and they're like, hey, I think we should do, I look at the people who have made the most money. Tony Robbins said, if you want to do anything, you know, find somebody who's done it and model what they do. And when I look at the top earners of all times, you know, the top 100 people in the chart now and the top 100 people of all time, there's only one common theme throughout the entire group. One, they all had a great product, but two, they built a team, and that's what they focused on. So I've listed, you know, some of the best people, but I've also want you guys to know, it's not like I looked at this today. I've studied this for a long time. I've studied this since I was 17. And I haven't listened to hundreds of hours or hundreds of audios. I haven't just listened to 1,000 audios. I've listened to thousands of hours of audios, thousands of hours, studied hundreds and hundreds of people. You know, have I studied 1,000 people? I don't know if it's been quite 1,000 people yet, but I can tell you I probably have studied the top 500 for over 20 years, learning this. And I've been able to build teams, you know, in different companies. I've been able to build teams in different marketplaces. I've been able to build teams in different industries outside of direct sales as well. And I've been able to do it with different products, both tangible and non-tangible. If you don't know what that even means, a pen is tangible, but, you know, real estate or insurance usually is an intangible. It's not a physical product. It's just written, this is what's going to happen. Or legal services. It's not a tangible. You can't bring attorneys with you in your trunk. And, well, you could, but you'd probably not be doing that long because attorneys would figure that out and not get in your car. So I've also learned from some of the best of the best. Some of the people that I'm going to mention on this list, I've actually been trained by personally. You know, I've been on their calls. I've been at their trainings. I was part of their organizations. So this isn't guessing, guys. This is, you know, what really works and what, you know. But here's the other thing that I'll tell you right up front. You can do whatever the heck you want to do. It does not matter to me at all. I support everybody on my team and everybody in the industry. If all you want to do is sell, what I say is do it the best you can. If that's the only thing you feel you can do, and that's all you feel you're good at, great, go smash it. But what I'm in the industry for and what I'm here to find is other people who want to build a team, and I'm going to help them build marketplaces across the country, and that's totally up to them. I'm looking for just a few people. The majority of the people who get involved in direct sales, network marketing, MLM, whatever you want to call it, the majority of the people, the only reason, a lot of people don't even know this, the majority of the reason people get in is not to build a company. The majority of the reason people get in is to wholesale, buy wholesale. They have no interest in building at all. They have no interest in selling either. All they have an interest in is, I want to order a wholesale. I just saw somebody put up online, hey, I'm ordering this ridiculously expensive product, wholesale. Which basically means you're probably paying retail at wholesale. I mean, you know, when I really looked at the product line, I was like, yeah, I know what that stuff is, and I know what it really costs, and I see what your wholesale line is, and your wholesale line is more than retail. That's how the company makes money, by the way. That's just the way that it works. Just like I know the company I'm in, you know, because of the huge volume, they get it for $1, and they're able to upcharge it. That's how it works. So in saying that, if you're going to go into sales, I just say sell as best you can. But you know, I'm going to give you the rest of this speech, talk, training, whatever you want to call it, is based for the people who want to learn how to recruit and why. So let's go into this. I came up with a list, and this is a list of some of the best people in the industry that I found, not only numbers-wise, meaning they have all of the proof from the team, but they also have made the most money. And the first guy I'm going to mention is A.L. Williams. For those of you who don't know who A.L. Williams is, I would say go research this guy, go watch some of his trainings. But A.L. Williams built basically the largest team inside of North America, not just inside of his own company industry, but inside the industry period. 2 million people in North America were on his team. 2 million. And he did it in record time. It was like 11 years. He built to 2 million people, $300 billion in sales, which is pretty solid. That's more than the industry is right now of direct sales. You know, if you look at network marketing does about 200 billion. They had 300 billion in assets sold. So not only did they beat number 2, but they beat number 2 and 3 combined in their industry. And they sold insurance, for those of you who don't know. Insurance, which required you to go get a license. He fought the industry for years, going state to state, overturning, you know, legislation and having to change basically the entire industry. And he's responsible for a lot of actually the products we see now specifically in one area of the insurance. I'm not an insurance agent, so I can't talk super knowledgeable, but I've researched and learned about this. So that's pretty decent. $1.2 billion is what he was worth the last I looked, which is pretty good. So when people argue with me, maybe there's another way to make money, I was like, do you know anybody making $1 billion or worth $1 billion because they got really good at selling the product? I haven't found anybody yet, and if you find somebody, you bring them to me. Here's the second guy. The second guy on that list is Dexter Yeager. Now, the interesting thing is Dexter Yeager retired in the 80s. Retired. He really wasn't building. Now, he trained every once in a while, but he retired. He wasn't even doing anything. And he still, today, out-earns 99.9% of everybody in the industry, and he retired in the 80s. For those of you who don't know, 90s, that was 10 years. 2000s, that was 10 years, and now we're into, you know, almost another 10 years. It's 2018. So he's been retired for approximately 25, 30 years, and he still out-earns everyone. And I was on his team, so I do know what he taught, and I still have a lot of the material, a lot of the books, a lot of the audios that aren't even online anymore because, you know, he owns the copyright to them, and some of that stuff he didn't want online because it was for his team. That's just the kind of guy he was. The last I looked, he had made, this is interesting, he had earned in commissions just from network marketing $450 million. For those of you who don't know, most companies don't get to $450 million in total sales. There's only a handful that go beyond $500 million. He's almost made $500 million in commissions. So I would say that's okay. He had a team of over 1 million people. He had over 1,000 people on his team that earned in excess of 7 figures in his time inside the company. So I thought he was pretty good. Jim Dornan. Jim Dornan was another guy from the same company. Dexter was from the company Amway. For those of you who don't know that. Jim Dornan was the other guy. He built an organization called Network 21, which wrapped around the world in excess of 1 million people as well. So where Dexter, I was told, was 2/3 of Amway, Jim Dornan was the other third. So these two guys did very, very well. And a lot of people say, well, what about Bill Britt? Because a lot of people know who Bill Britt is. Well, Bill Britt was one leg of Dexter Yeager. So, you know, Bill had about another third. So Dexter had 2/3. Jim Dornan had the other third, wrapped around the world, was in the industry. Unfortunately, I believe he's passed, and his wife. But Jim Dornan wrote a book with John Maxwell about becoming a person of influence and leadership and team building. And then, you know, that brings me to Holton Buggs. And Holton Buggs basically held the title, you know, in the beginning of 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, up until about 2 years ago. He was on track. I know he broke $1 million a month, and then he broke, you know, $1.5 million a month. I'm not sure if he pushed past $2 million. I think he got past $2 million a month once, at least once. But he spoke at Eric Worre's event, Network Marketing Pro, one of the best in the industry, and you know, he actually was also an old Amway guy that, you know, got trained there and has built amazing teams. But what I thought was interesting, if you look at like 2010, 11, 12, 13, not only is Holton in the top 3 positions of network marketing earners for the year, but if you look at the top 100 list, he has 7 or 8 or 9 of the guys also in that list of 100. So not only did he do it, he was able to replicate it and do it. And then, you know, that leads me down to number 5 on my list, Casey Comden. Casey Comden built the largest organization inside of Canada, 250,000 people, 250,000 people. In his first 24 months, he got to 100 grand. 4 years in, he hit a level called Diamond inside that organization, so he got to 100,000 a month. 12 months later, he hit Executive and got to 500,000 a month and earned in excess of $36 million with that company in his span of time. So when people come to me and they're like, hey, I've got this new great way to do this, what I say is if you've made more than any of these people or built an organization bigger than any of these people, I'll listen to what you have to say. But if you haven't and you don't have this kind of proof, and guys, this isn't proof over like a year or two. This is proof over decades. Some of these guys built organizations and have retired longer. They've retired and are still making money longer than you've been alive. So that's who I'm listening to. And what I want to do is I'm going to go over to a training that was actually by a guy, A.L. Williams. And A.L. Williams kind of spells this out, and I'm sorry I'm going to read this to you, but it's so important. Like, I want you to get the actual information. You can go watch this on YouTube, A.L. Williams. It was years after he retired. He says, basically, looking back at the company, I would do it the exact same way we did it back then. He said, we sold the best product to the best customer. We gave the best part-time opportunity in the world. And I really like that. He was a guy who changed the industry of insurance, but also changed the industry of direct sales, because he's like, I'm not looking for full-time people. I'm looking for the part-time people who basically have made $25,000 up to about $60,000, $70,000. He goes, I'm not looking for the rock stars. I'm not looking for the egomaniacs. I'm looking for normal people who have families who just want to do better. They're ambitious. They're disgusted with corporate America and all of the garbage that goes along with that, which we're not going to go into. But he said, basically, he said, we created the greatest full-time opportunity because he felt about 90% of the people he talked to disliked their full-time job. Disliked the hours, disliked corporate, disliked all of the stuff at corporate. I don't want to get into. He said, I had to figure this thing out, and I had to do it fast. He said, so we went through all the growing pains. We basically learned and put together a system. We looked at the facts so everyone could basically talk a good game. And once the system was built, he's like, that's how we built A.L. Williams' company. It was a system. He said, if you look back, he said there were 3 people, you know, that he kind of remembers, you know, this guy, Ronnie Barnes, who was a $12,000 a year teacher who moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Rodney was a producer. He goes through a couple people that he knows. You know, one lady got to $35,000 a month. Another guy got to $60,000 a month. And they were still earning this, like, you know, when he gave this talk, which wasn't that long ago. I think it was 2005 or 6. So he had been out of the industry for almost 15 years at this point, and these people still had these organizations, and he was earning money. So he said a system helps the average ordinary people to create a big, secure income. It's the system. A lot of people think it's the product, and the product's necessary, but it's actually the system that makes sense. The motto, everybody wants to be somebody. He's like, if you look at the NFL, the NBA, that's what attracts. Everybody wants to be somebody. Everybody wants to be a star. He said there's 3 things that allowed A.L. Williams to get to where it was. He said, number 1, it gave the ability to be your own boss. And everybody out there, you know, has at least an idea at some point, or you've had that day at work where you want to be your own boss. Number 2, you get to control your own destiny and your time. You know, a lot of people like to control their time, which is why they want to be their own boss. Number 3, believe passionately in what they do. People want to be involved in something. He's like, people want to belong to something that's worthwhile. They don't just want to show up every day and put another brick on the wall, you know. And some people, that's their job. They just, you know, it's repeat, and eventually that gets boring and you hate it. So he said, number 1, we had a great vision. He said, A.L. Williams was a great event, and he believed we were born to beat the pants off of everybody else in the industry. That's what he just believed. He said, we were born to fight back, and they really wanted to set a new standard. Number 2, would give people the opportunity to build their own thing and have their own thing. So what is he talking about? Building a team. He said, you're your own boss, and you create real security by building a team. Not sales, building a team. He said, Winston Churchill, and this is a great quote, he said, there comes a special moment in everyone's life, a moment for which you are born, that special opportunity that when he seizes it, will fulfill his mission, a mission for which he's uniquely qualified. In a moment, he finds greatness, and that is his finest hour. That's a great quote by Winston Churchill, but that's what he just believed. He's like, so if you want to make it big, you got to believe big. He said, you have to believe this is your moment, you have to believe this is your chance, and you have to believe this is why you're here. That you met the people you met, you're on their team, not by accident, but by design. That it was meant to happen. It's all about, and I think this is, you know, and these are exact notes from his lecture, so you can go back. I'll actually post the lecture underneath. He said it's all about building a team. All. He used the word all. He said, I hate sales, but I love building a team. Hate sales. He said, what is a team? He said, a team is every player working together to reach common goals and vision. What is a team? Where every player basically buys into 3 things. Number 1, a system. Number 2, principles. And number 3, the multiplication takes over. He said there has to be a oneness in what you're doing. Meaning, if you want to build a secure, strong team, everybody has to be playing the same game. Everybody can't pull out their own game and one be playing Jenga and another one be playing Monopoly and everybody go in a different direction. You'll confuse the crap out of everybody. Nobody will win. Everyone has to believe. He said everyone has one heartbeat. Everyone has one page. And if you don't like it, he's like, don't come back. He's like, we'll find somebody else. I mean, he was very, some of the people, the guys that I listed here, they have really strong philosophies, and I'm the kind of person, I love everybody. I'll have everybody. I feel strongly enough. I can recruit enough people that if, there's certain people on the team that don't want to do what we're doing, I'll go find 100 people that will, to replace one. And that's just my goal. I'm willing to work that hard. I'm willing to go out and replace every person that doesn't want to do this with 100 people that will. And it might take me 1,000 people to find those 100, but that's just what I'm willing to do, and that's probably why every single time that I've built, it's worked. And I've made beyond more money than most of the people that I've worked around. I've also worked less time. For those of you who are looking to work smart instead of hard and want more time, one of the companies, I tell people this all the time, for the month, I worked about 4 days a month. And what I mean by worked is I actually picked up the phone, made all the phone calls, did all the presentations. I did all my work in 4 days, 4 days a month to maintain. And I talked to most people in the industry that were in that organization, on those teams that were sidelined. And they're like, oh yeah, we worked 40, 50, 60 hours. We were constantly on the phone. We were constantly doing this. We were constantly doing that. I was like, man, I was at the gym. I was at the pool. I was reading books. I was going to things. I was going to conventions. I was sleeping in. And you guys were killing yourselves. I'm just saying there's probably a better way to do it. Only one way to make it. That's basically what A.L. Williams said. Total commitment, 100%. He said, you can't always be looking for an easier way, a quicker way. There's got to be a better way. He's like, some things never change, regardless of the technology, regardless of the product, and regardless of the economy. He said some things never change. The fundamentals of building a business do not change based on all this stuff. A lot of people are like, social media is going to change everything. I'm not going to have to do this, this, or this. And, I'm watching people right now spend a ton of money trying to build their teams using technology and all this crazy stuff. And they have nobody on their team still. The fundamentals of building a business never change. A.L. Williams is not a sales company. That's his words, not mine. A.L. Williams is not a sales company. He said, but to build a big team, you must understand the power of a team. So he kind of goes into the disadvantages. He's like, here's the disadvantages of sales. He goes, the disadvantages of sales is you're unemployed absolutely every single day. He said, you wake up, you're unemployed. If you don't make a sale that day, you're unemployed and you don't eat. He said, it has a limited income potential because there's only so much time for you to sell. So he says sales is very limited. Now remember, he's in the insurance business, which has what? Residuals. He said, but sales is not where it's at. He said, if I was going to take a chance, I wanted to take a chance to make a big income. Although I thought about what it took to build a big team, building a big team gives you these things. He said a secure income because it's not just you. Number two, it's an unlimited income. There's no ceiling because you can keep recruiting people and eventually those people keep recruiting people and you can build an unlimited income that can keep going and keep going and keep going. Where, eventually what happens is no matter how great of a salesperson you become, you can go to every closing course, Straight Line, Jordan Belfort, and I'm just trying to think, Lucient Technology, sales, and you'll be great. And Brian Tracy can give you all the motivation in the world. Zig Ziglar can give you all the motivation in the world. But I can find 25 people that are kind of just okay salespeople, and we can go out and beat you. Because if I have enough people who are average, I can beat somebody that's extraordinary very easily. It's really easy. Here's the reason why you probably have never succeeded inside of recruiting is because nobody sat down and taught you what to do, what to say, how to say it, when to say it. But once you learn these things, guys, there's recruiters in every industry. So recruiting can't be hard if it's in every industry. They hire people to do this, and these are usually some of the highest paid people. They're some of the highest paid people. They're not the highest paid, but they're some of the highest paid. They also have the most freedom. So he talks about this. And he goes into a couple people, Jenny Carter, that earn between $60,000 and $70,000 a month, blah, 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 blah. He said, here's the qualities of the perfect part-time people. He goes, we were not looking for full-time people. We were looking for part-time people who wanted to build an income on the side of what they do. Keep your security, keep your benefits, keep going to work, Keep, being a coach. Keep being a teacher. Keep doing all the things that you are in doing so you can keep paying your bills. Just build this on the side. And I remember Jim Rohn always talking about this. Jim Rohn says, if you make $1,000 a month part-time, you're a hero. People are like, wow. He's like, but if you make $1,000 a month full-time, nobody is interested in what you're doing, which is, I found to be very true. So he said, these are the qualities of a perfect part-time person: a good person, an honest person, a loyal person, a good mom, a good dad, somebody who's excited about the mission and the goal and the dream, somebody who's played on a team before, somebody who knows how to compete, tough people who have been through some crap, people who have a ton of want to. He calls want to motivation. Maybe another word, people who want to get ahead, people who want to be respected by others. He's like, I didn't say we go out and recruit great salespeople, because I'm not looking for great salespeople. He goes, in fact, great salespeople usually don't do well. Why? Because they think they know everything. Oh, I'm great in sales. When somebody usually tells me that, I watch them recruit nobody. And he says the same thing. He's like, typically what you do is you find a great salesperson who's screwed, tattooed, and been rude to every single person they've ever met to get their sales. And then nobody wants to be around them. The reason they have to recruit people they don't know is because nobody wants to deal with them, because they've won over, and screwed over every other person they've ever met inside of sales. And that's not everybody. But in general, when somebody boasts about how great they are, that's typical. He's like, I'm not looking for a good recruiter. I'm not looking for a good speaker. He's like, I'm not looking for a CEO. I'm not looking for somebody who has an MBA. I'm not looking for somebody who's, 6'6" and played at IU or Purdue and, won a championship. He said, all of the business stuff is really easy. He goes, I can coach and teach anybody. I can teach anybody how to sell. I can teach anybody how to recruit. I can teach anybody how to build a team. I can teach somebody how to become a motivational speaker or how to build a successful business. But then he kind of goes into this. He's like, I can't teach a pig to sing. And if you don't understand what that means, talk to me later and we'll go into that. He goes, I can't teach a dud into a stud. I can't teach somebody who has absolutely if you have no motivation in life, no goals, no ambitions, we cannot light a rocket underneath you and get you to do anything. He goes, I can't teach somebody honesty. I can't teach somebody loyalty. I can't teach people integrity. I can't teach people how to have a positive attitude. That's stuff you either do or don't have. Now, you can learn those things. You can learn, hey, there was a right way and a wrong way to do it. But in general, most people, if you don't have that up front, you're not going to learn to do it. Most people. Now, every once in a while, there's somebody like me who comes along, and I didn't have any of that, and I fixed it. Identify your marker. And this is one of the things that I say this is a game changer. And one of the game changers inside of recruiting and building a team is being able to qualify people. Do I pitch everybody? Yes. Yes, I kind of pitch everybody. It's from an educational point of view. I want everybody to know what I'm doing. But as I get busy, I stop pitching everybody and I start pre-qualifying people. And if you learn how to pre-qualify people, recruiting gets really easy. If you want to know how to recruit a lot of people, learn how to pre-qualify people. So here's his pointers. 5 pointers. He looks for people who are married together. The reason he looks for people who are married, if you read his books, is he said married people have more than one person to become responsible for. And when you're responsible for more than one person, you tend to look at things to help out. You tend to want to spend time with that person. The people who I know who have good relationships want to spend more time with people. The people I know who are like, I never want to spend time with the person I'm with, that's not a person usually who's going to build a team or do good, because the reason they're in that situation is because they have the problem. It's not the other person. That's just from what I found. He looks for people who have a job, who have an income, who are responsible, who show up every day. I was just talking to a friend of mine and said, how long have you been driving a truck? He's like, 20 years. I'm like, in that 20 years, how many days did you miss? And he's like, probably not more than a month of work. And I said, so you probably missed one day. I said, out of 20 years, 20 days, that's one day a year being sick. I said, did you miss for any other reason? He's like, no. He's like, I couldn't miss. They would have fired me. So, that's dedication. 20 years, a decade. My mom just retired after 38 and a half years of teaching. And, I know she got all kinds of awards as well for attendance. That's a loyal person. That's not something you can teach. People who just go through life and always try to skimp and always try to cut corners and they do not become successful. I just haven't seen it. People who have kids. People have kids. Again, it comes down to responsibility. The more people you're responsible for, usually the more you're looking for help. you're looking for another way. Own a home, again, comes down to responsibility. Own a home, rented a home is different than being in an apartment. You know, where you have no responsibility, you don't care what happens, somebody else is going to fix everything. He looks for people who are 21. He said 21 to 50. Actually, I think he said 27 to 45. But I read some other stuff, and he really said 21 to 55 is where you want about 80% of your organization. He made a good point. He's like, if you talk to people who are under 25 usually, and there's a party to go to rather than an event where you can, you know, learn something, they're going to go to the party. I mean, I know that was true back then when he talked, you know, the speech in 1991. But you talk about now, I would say it's even more people are like, I'd rather stay home and play a video. Oh, you know, it rained. Oh, you know, the excuses are more because there's more stuff to distract you. You know, why doesn't he target people over 50 usually? He basically said this. He goes, most of the people over 50 start talking about downsizing. They start talking about slowing down. They start talking about, you know, just relaxing. They start talking about, I've had a hard life. And I'll be real honest, that is not attractive to bring other people onto your team. Nobody wants to be around somebody who's like that. Nobody. You know, you might think, well, I'm just going to get around a group of people who, the only people who want to be around people like that are other people who are like that, who are trying to slow down and do less and just kick back. And, you know, you've had it so hard and you want to talk about how bad you've been screwed, and you all get together and talk about it and wonder why you all have problems. I tend to leave those groups. So those are his list, not mine. You know, I'll add two more things. You look for people who are ambitious, people who, you know, have a hobby that, you know, they sell cars, or they fix houses, or they flip, you know, Craigslist stuff, or they go to Goodwill and they're selling on the side. I look for people who are ambitious. I also look for people who are dissatisfied. Hey, man, do you love what you're doing? Not really, but I can't get out of it because I make so much money. Oh, okay. What if there was a way to make enough money to get out of it? I mean, would you be open to at least hearing about it? Yeah. I mean, I'm not looking for anything, but those are people you want to talk to. So great businesses are built on best friends. That's how he built his business. He said 2 nevers. Never bring a new recruit to a meeting. I thought that was interesting. He said never bring, actually it's not recruit, never bring a new prospect to a meeting. He's like, I never bring a new prospect to a meeting. He's like, the prospect always gets shown the business at home or in a third-party place. The only people that come to meetings are already in. He's like, it changes the dynamic. Not already in, already have seen it. Let me clarify that. They've already seen the information. So there is no pop-up surprise. Hey man, I'm going to something. You know, I really want you to show up. I really want you to meet these people. And I know you don't know what it is, and we're not going to tell you what it is. Guys, don't do that to people. You know, tell them what it is up front, and then the people who show up sign up. That's how it works. That's kind of what he's saying. He said a new recruit never explains without and he literally uses the word field trainer, which is really funny because that's every system's different, but he uses the word field trainer here. What is field trainer? Field trainer is a level inside of his company. It just happens to be one of the words that they use for our company, which is hysterical. So field trainer. What does he mean? New people do not necessarily go out and prospect new people. He uses third party to help out until they promote. So he said new people only set an appointment, that's it. He said, I help them build the team and make this happen. I always talk about the... Always. He uses the word always. Always talk about the opportunity first. I thought that was interesting. We are a warm market company. Never talk to strangers, never go into strangers' homes, never cold call, never door knock. Always talk to friends. He said, always have a friend go with you. He said, if you have a friend go with you and they set up the appointment, you never get lost. They're taking you. You never go in the guest door. You go in the main door. You never wear a tie. You never sit in the living room. You're able to sit at the kitchen table, and you never sell and pressure anybody. He said, the educational approach makes sure that this works. It's an educational approach. Hey, I wanted to introduce you to a friend of mine and show you what we're doing. So if you can run into the right person, you can refer them to us. That's how we do it. The system must be simple. He said the playbook, he said you have to have a big playbook to start with, but the system must be simple. We only sell the same thing we're buying. I thought that was cool. You know, I have it. I'm just going to share with you what I have. Nothing fancy, you know, nothing we're doing that takes any, crazy education. We do the right thing every time. The bigger your team gets, the bigger the organization gets, the simpler it has to become. 90% of the time, we just focus on a few important things. Keep it simple. Keep the focus simple. Everyone understands. And then he says, basically, there's 9 things to his system. Recruit somebody part-time who has a warm market. Number 2, new jobs recruit is basically set up appointments. Make a list and set up appointments. What do you say to set up an appointment? He basically, he used a bunch of different examples, but he's, hey, do me a favor. I want to show you. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine and what we're doing. He said, number 3, take the new recruit with you. Number 4, go to the friend door. Number 5, the recruit basically acts as a cheerleader only. Hey, I'm really excited about this. I want to introduce you to the guy who's, the sales director, for instance. Your first impression is everything. Who is this person they're bringing you to see? What's going on? Ask the questions. Pre-qualify the person. Number 7, recruit best friend into the warm market and then start over again, basically repeat it. We are a warm market company is what he said. He said, what is warm market? He said, hot part of warm market, best friends, golf buddies, parents, kids, people you went to school with, people you hang out with on the weekend, people you go do barbecues with. He said, cold market, anybody that's in the neighborhood, people you work with, places you go, church, any organization. He's like, I don't necessarily go for the people, well, I don't know anyone. Well, I just moved to town. Well, I don't have a warm market. He's like, you use what you have. He actually used a coaching directory to get in front of new people and new places. He said, look, I'm Art Williams. I coached. While I was coaching, I found I wasn't making enough money, so I found something. I made over X number of dollars in the last 2 years. I'd love to sit down and share with you what I'm doing. I am a recruiter, and I'm looking for some good people. Want to talk, see if you could refer me to anybody. Sound familiar? Where do you think I got that from? So, personal campaign letter, he kind of shows basically what he wrote, He said, look, I picked up the phone and I called. I never had any of those coaches call me. He's like, I called, I talked to him, I set an appointment, and that's basically, he only got 4 out of the 21 coaches that he went to find, and out of those 4, it turned out okay, 2 million people. Teach your new recruit to build a team. The goal, I love this, the goal in mind is the overrides. So there's active income. Active income is when you sell. Passive income is when you teach a team to sell. Residual income is when everybody reorders. For those of you who don't know, most of the money made inside of network marketing that you see these people touting and promoting is not residual income. It's not. What it is it's passive income because they built a team, or they were given a team, or they bought into a team. There's a lot of different ways. How to grow by multiplication. If only one recruit recruits 3 people, 10 people, he'd have 30 on his team. Okay, so if one recruit recruits 3 and then you get 10, you have 30 people. But if 2 recruit 2 and they get 2 and they get 2, he kind of shows the numbers, and it's pretty redonkulous. A recruiting surge leads to an ordering surge. What does that mean? If you go on a recruiting crazy, your volume goes crazy. But if you go on a trying to go get volume, typically you only get a little bit. But if you go on a recruiting frenzy and you bring in this whole big new team that has all these new contacts and all this new warm market, he's like, what you have the ability to do is then you have a volume, crazy volume increase. This was just him. He said only 50% of the people actually went and got licensed and got started. Only 50%. They got in, they got a product. They were kind of thinking about it, which is normally how network marketing works. Recruiting rules. Get the new recruit to field trainer as fast as possible. The longer it takes you to get them, the lower the excitement. Don't just throw crap against the wall. That was his words, not mine. Make sure people get to field trainer. Number 2, get at least 50% of them moving. And number 3, teach your new recruits to build a team. The gold mine is in the overrides. The gold mine. If you want to create a gold mine, if you want money coming in month after month, day after day, year after year, build a team. A team. We are a promotion factory. That's what he said. There's 4 rules. So he had this level in the company that he called bronze. He said bronze is the starting line. In our company, it'd be sales director. Sales director is the starting line. When you're a sales director, you can really build your own company inside your own company. He's like, when you're a sales director, you're basically at that point, you're your own boss. When you're a sales director, the goal is to create other sales directors. That's what we do. He said, so, 3 missions. Number 1 goal, become a sales director. Number 2, create 7 to 10 sales directors. Number 3, help them create 7 to 10 sales directors. He's like, you'll never work again. You'll never work again once you do that. If you create 10 and you help the 10 create 10, you'll have 100 people who know what's going on. It'll take more than 10. It'll take more than 10 to find your 10. What I found in general is I find about 1 good person out of every 100 that can build an organization and run an organization. One out of 100. That's not uncommon for anything. 1 out of 100 people probably shows up to the gym on a regular basis, works out, and looks like an athlete. An athlete, not goes in and loses 10 pounds. There's tons of people who go in and lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, but goes in and looks like an athlete, maybe 1 out of 100, maybe. And, it all depends on what your goal is. Most people who are not getting in, they're not getting in to do this for a living. They're getting in to make a little bit of extra money. How do you find the 7 to 10 studs? He's like, you don't do it by aptitude tests, personality tests, leadership tests, all this other stuff. You don't do it by running around. He said the only way is basically to recruit large numbers. He's like, large numbers. He's like, if you want to bring on quality, you want to bring on quantity. What does he mean? 1 out of 100. What you must do, make each recruit a friend, get them to field trainer in 2 to 3 days, build a system and teach them that system. That's what he said. Make a friend. It's pretty easy. Recruit somebody. That's number 1. Recruit somebody. Number 2, get them to field trainer as fast as possible. And number 3, teach them the system. Okay? Make sure you give every single person a chance to make it. You create the funnel. People looking for, and this is what he said, you're looking for people who are looking for work, people who want to hear a story, people who look at videos, people who get on spot, people who are going to order right away, people who can recruit 2 people. He's like, you just look at the ratio. He's like, 50% don't make it. 50% won't make it. But 50% won't make it at a gym. 50% won't make it in music. 50% don't make it in everything they sign up for. Remember, this is voluntary. It's just the way that it works. Guaranteed formula for a small company. Build company for giants and only big hitters. He's like, we don't do that. Guarantee formula for a giant company is build a company for average and ordinary people. Average and ordinary people. That's who you want to build for. He's like, 90% of your team will do just a little bit, and that's all that's required. The goal, get a lot of people doing a little bit over a long enough period of time. That's all that he taught. He's like, we just need to get a lot of people doing a little bit over a long enough period of time. He's like, the second goal is get a few people doing a lot over a long time. Everybody has different goals, different ideas, different independence. Some will make millions and not be financially jailed anymore. Some will make thousands and just be financially free, and some will make hundreds and make extra money and do great things for their family. That's a great plan, right? Always remember in networking, you're either growing or you're dying. The best way to keep growing is always be recruiting, always be training, and always be promoting. Those 3 things. Always be recruiting, always be training the new people, and always be promoting the next event. Number 1 killer of growth, no new recruits. That's the number 1 killer of growth. And he actually talks about in this video, he's like, you do not grow faster by focusing on sales. You grow faster by recruiting. He said, always have new promotions. Always keep the pipeline full. Contacts, more invites, more presentations, more follow-ups. That is the cycle. More guests at the event. If you have more guests at the event, you'll have more recruits. To ensure promotions, he's like, give them everything you got. Ask them to give them everything you got. I'll run as hard as you can and then some. Together we can win. Identify the good ones and be friends with everybody. He's like, always promote early when they have the momentum. Make the battlefield, your basically goal is to make battlefield promotions, meaning you have to be in the field to make those promotions. Find people who can make money and save money. Find the responsible ones. Rules about replacement. To go run another market, you must find a replacement in the market you're in. I thought that was interesting. Number 1 thing is to build leaders who can run markets. He's like, that was his number 1 thing. Number 1 thing for building what he did is to basically build leaders who can run a market. The purpose of the opportunity meeting. Never the first meeting for a new recruit, always at the kitchen table. Always start a meeting with your personal story. Hey, here's how I saw this. Here's how I got into it. It has to have emotion. It has to have passion. It has to have the crusade. It has to have the rightness, the goodness, the success, and the opportunity in that story. We are part-time company doing what we love, making money at the same time. That's kind of how he promoted what he did. He's like, you have to be double dumb not to have a backup plan in this kind of an economy. And especially now, I mean, that was in the 80s when he built his. He thought it was double dumb in a time when most people had worked their entire life at the same company. He's like, you have to be double dumb not to have a backup plan in today's society. I would say triple dumb now. You know, first show them the concept, second show them basically the product line, and third, basically show them the program. Everybody needs extra income. That's just what he believed. And that's kind of what I've always said. You know, the reason why I focus so hard on recruiting is I believe beyond every product out there, there's one common theme. There's one common theme that people need more than any product that any company has, and that's money. So I've always found it's easiest to basically show them an opportunity. But here's what's interesting. Although I believe I lead with the money in all advertising that I do, I'm always looking for people who are looking to do something extra or open to doing something extra or open to looking at what I'm doing so they can help me find somebody who's looking to do extra. I always lead with and start with the product. Because what I found is if people don't believe in the product, they won't believe in the opportunity. If they don't believe people buy your product and would buy your product, if they don't believe they'll buy your product, they cannot convince others. So you do have to lead with that. In the beginning, he says part-time concept allows you to qualify and hire better people. A part-time concept allows you to hire and recruit better people. Everybody needs extra income. We have the best. He's like, you just have to believe this. You have the best extra income opportunity on the planet in direct sales and network marketing. I do believe that for almost every company out there, as long as you have a legitimate product that you're marketing. 90% of people don't like what they do full-time. That's why he always does that. He's like, everybody starts part-time, so there's no pressure. Don't leave any dead bodies trying to do this full-time. He called them dead bodies. He's like, big mistake is only, he's like, a part-timer can't lose. A part-timer's like, it didn't work, but they don't lose anything. He's like, if you quit your job to do this, you lost, you know, if it doesn't work. He's like, if they don't set up an appointment, it just, nothing happens. He's like, it's no big deal. He's like, we want people to say the company changed their life. We want people to say, look, I started this part-time. It was the best decision I ever made. He's like, here's some warnings. Be slow to let part-timers go full-time. Part-timers are the heart and soul of your business. If things don't work out, their life is not destroyed. Their family doesn't lose. Their family still eats if this doesn't work. Before you go part-time, there's 3 rules. Have an emergency fund. 6 months in the bank that you can live off of. 6 months of your full-time income in the bank. Number 2, have a team leveraged income of full-time income. Team. Your team money. Not you. Not you. That's great that you can sell 8,504 people every month yourself, but does your team produce the money you need? Because if something happens to you, if you go full-time and something happens to you and you can't produce, what does your team produce? $6? You can't live on $6. At least not here in the United States. Probably not in Canada either. Prove that you can do the business over a sustained period of time, at least 6 months. Prove that the business income alone makes enough money to pay your bills. That's just his rule. I was taught a very similar thing from the people that I learned from. You'll have full-timers. He's like, if you want to live... you have to live with full-timers every day, and basically if you live with full-timers every day, you're going to feel their pain and everything. You want to prepare them in advance to win and make sure they stay winning. A leader's job is momentum, before and after. Basically, you have to be able to start momentum, you have to be able to maintain momentum, and you have to be able to advance momentum. Those are the 3 things. Momentum is everybody doing something, everybody's excited, everybody's active, everybody's sharing, and everybody's recruiting. Everybody. Momentum, you can lose it quickly. He said, as soon as you relax, as soon as you start to enjoy, as soon as you start to slow down, kick back, as soon as it's all about vacations and cars and crap, you'll lose momentum. Momentum is keeping the pipeline full. New contacts, new invites, new sit-downs, new presentations, momentum. You must have a sense of urgency. This has to get done, which means there has to be a goal and a date with a deadline. Walk fast, talk fast, emergency meetings, one-on-one, challenge your people to get to the next level. He said, winning in business, it's a 2 to 5 year game. I've heard this before. They said, if it takes more than 2 to 5 years to make great money, you're in the wrong thing. The ups and downs of the roller coaster, good and bad, just like the weather. You're going to go through, it's just like the weather. You're going to have a storm, but storms pass. Winners are the master motivators. I love this. I had a friend in the industry. Basically, he kind of did it really fast. I mean, he built to $1 million in 36 months inside of direct sales. He kicked back for about 5 years. And after 5 years, he realized his team had slowed down. He got back out there and he built 3 more organizations just like the original 3 in 6 months, just to show people how easy it was. And that ignited his team. I mean, worldwide ignited. How do you get so much out of your people? Leadership and basically loving people. I mean, how do you get so much out? People will do more to gain your respect than they will to put money in their pocket. It's the weirdest thing. I've known that to be true for myself. Like, I've worked harder to get in the room with the people that I want to get with than I did for the paycheck. Like, I've always done this kind of part-time, so it's never, only at one period was I trying to do this. This was the only thing I was doing, and I ended up finding something else just so I wasn't doing it full-time, because I realized my motivation level was not just about the money. It was really about being in the room and being around the right people. No emotion, there's no motion. The key to momentum is the emotion and the motion that you're going to put into it. The key to building big teams is it's all about building personal relationships. This is a one-on-one business. This is a face-to-face business. This is a friendship business. That's what direct sales is, guys. So with that, he kind of says, it takes time to build personal relationships that makes friends. So that's what you want to focus on. You want to build relationships. You want to make friends. You want to be around people. You want to go to the events. You want to show up. That's why, people show up early. That's why people stay late. It's to build those relationships and those friendships. So he said there are no shortcuts to building a successful company. There's no shortcuts. He's like, you must get people involved. Their personal lives, their family lives, their business lives. You got to get involved in their life. You have to know what's going on. He's like, you can't close the door at the end of the meeting and not know people. I had so many friends. I'm like, hey, I know you talked to so-and-so. I'm like, what do they do for work? I don't know. Are they married? I don't know. Do they have kids? I don't know. You don't know anything about these people that have been on your team. No. Okay, so you basically just see them as a paycheck. Somebody's not teaching something and I did something wrong. That's every time I hear that, I did something wrong. I have not taught you what it's really about. The most powerful thing in business is being your own boss. The secret is working for yourself. The secret is being able to work hard for yourself. Work harder for yourself than you do. Work harder for yourself and work harder on yourself than you do for anything else. Your number 2 goal is to promote other people. Promoting other people, financial independence is everything. It's not so much about the money as it is the independence. If you want to fight, this is what he said. He said, if you want to fight me on this, you better bring 3 meals because you're going to be fighting me all day. You're going to need to stop, eat breakfast, stop, eat lunch, stop, eat dinner, and you're probably going to need an afternoon snack because, I will kick your from sun up to sundown. Good luck, and you better not plan on sleeping that night if you challenge me. That was just kind of his rule. I would say the same if you've ever seen my Facebook. People are like, how in the world were you liking my stuff and commenting and posting at 4 in the morning and then I see you the next day? Like, how is that possible? It's possible. Trust me. Every single person who made it wanted financial independence more than they wanted anything. It's just something you got to do. He's like, you got to plan financial independence. He's like, you have to have a specific goal. You have to have a specific time you're going to achieve the goal. You have to have it written down. You must develop a plan, a written plan to be able to get it. You must decide what price you're willing to pay to get it, and you must think about reaching that goal every single day and work towards it. So that's how he ended his speech. I'm going to go ahead and put this up online. I'll find where I got this information from. It's really powerful. I suggest you to go on. I can show you the same notes from Dexter, the same notes for Casey Comden, the same notes from Jim Dornan. I have a handful of people, the top 10 people in the industry that I follow. All of them have made more than 7 figures. All of them have done it building a team. And I can count on one hand the times they talk to us about, and make sure you go out and sell. Yes, you're supposed to get customers, but here's the thing. If you do this like what we're talking about, at least on this, this training from A.L. Williams, you'll get customers coming to you. Because watch, when you build and you become successful and people start following you, your influence becomes greater than being a salesperson. Do you realize that? If you recruit, your influence becomes greater than being a salesperson. So then people want to recommend you. That's why you're going to get more sales. People are like, well, it just seems like I'm getting more sales. Well, no, of course you are. You're more influential. The more influential you are, the more sales that'll come to you. But it's not the focus. The focus is helping people. The focus is helping people. Create another income. So with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up like a burrito. I appreciate everybody for watching. Have a great Memorial Day. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, and I know we're going to start a short 4-day week, and we're going to get rolling right away. Thanks.